very difficult to say how soon it will happen, but it's pretty sure that something like this could happen again in the future. Wherever we've had mining, we've created big voids under the earth, and the earth is trying to close those voids. And so from time to time, seismic events will occur, and occasionally a large seismic event will occur, as we've just had.
So what has research shown since then, since the 5th of August? What have we learned about, in terms of pinpointing exactly what caused that event?
Well, in fact, later this morning we're having a seminar where we're going to have somebody from the Council for Geoscience, and that's the agency that's responsible for the monitoring, and they will be providing us with some of the hard measurements that they have made. But so far, from what I've gathered, is that the earthquake is related to the extensive mining that has happened in the Klerksdorp area over the last 50 or 60 years, and the event was located on an ancient fault, but these faults are reactivated by the mining activity that takes place.
Speaking of mining, and we know that there was a report handed to the Minister of Mineral Resources that happened in 2006. You're talking about the risks to miners and mines and the public as well. What would be your discussion around that today? Are you going to make further recommendations, and what would they be in terms of mining and where we're going?
Well, I think we're certainly going to review the recommendations we made back in 2006 and see what progress has been made in terms of implementing those findings. You know, for example, one of the recommendations was that the houses that are built in those regions should be reinforced to be able to withstand this type of shaking. And we'd want to see to what extent this is in fact being done. And especially when new houses are built, if measures are taken to make them more resistant to earthquake shaking.
I mean, will there come a point where we'd have to say we have to stop mining in South Africa? Do you see that happening?
No, I don't see that happening. I think this is the type of risk that can be properly managed, and if one builds one's structures soundly, one should be able to withstand this kind of shaking.
Speaking of withstanding, I mean, you know, it was felt sort of so far away from where the epicenter was, and those of us who felt it here in Johannesburg as well, it was quite severe. Is South Africa properly equipped in terms of our construction and our construction practices and just how our buildings are built, or do we need to do some work there?
Well, I think certainly when it comes to regulation, we have the regulations in place in terms of what how buildings should be built, and I think the next step, and we have to make sure that that is in place, is that it's properly implemented. So I think we have the knowledge, we have the technology, it's a matter of ensuring that it is in place. But I think with our modern buildings, they should be constructed by competent civil engineers, and they should be able to withstand the likely shaking.
In your research, have you identified certain parts of South Africa where mining would be a no-no, where we're doing these things where they shouldn't be done?
In terms of the risk of earthquakes, no. I think in the areas where we are mining, we know what the risks are, and we are able to handle them. Yes.
And also to minimize risks for mine workers themselves.
Well, that is certainly an issue, because if a big event occurs close to mine workings, while mine workings are underground, the shaking is violent and it can cause falls of ground. And so there again, I think we have the technology in place to support the excavation, but again, we need to be making sure that it is properly implemented in the places where the mine workers are. And also when it comes to the mining practice, the size of the excavations, the shape of the excavations, the way in which they mine, there we need to follow strict discipline as well to reduce the likelihood of large events happening close to the mine workings.
Has that been happening?
I think pretty much it has been happening, but of course with any large industry at times, I think there might be a temptation to cut corners, but I think we are professional people mining responsibly, that is generally being done.
And I think a lot of people wanting to know about warnings, and is it possible that that there is a system out there, or one that could be created so that we know that something like this is coming?
We work with, and in fact we're involved with Japanese scientists over here doing experiments with us in our deep gold mines to see if we can understand the physics of earthquakes better. But really at this stage, we cannot predict exactly when and where a large earthquake will happen. We can identify the areas where the hazards are greater, but to say we will give an alarm because there's a big event going to happen in 20 minutes, that we cannot do, and nobody can do anywhere in the world right now. I don't know if we ever will be able to do that.
You deserve to know more.
eNCA.com